Welcome to today's deep dive. Before we get into anything else, we want to start by offering a sincere divine blessing for your day and for your entire week ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
May you find clarity, peace, and purpose in whatever you're facing right now. We are just so incredibly glad you're here with us.
It is genuinely wonderful to have you joining us.
Today's mission is a custom-tailored journey into a narrative that, honestly, it reads like a premium cable thriller.
It really does.
Right. We're looking at a masterclass in psychological tension, complex family dynamics, and arguably one of the most stunning character transformations in recorded history. We are unpacking the events of Genesis chapter 44.
And to make sure we're extracting the real marrow from this text, we're relying on two exceptional scholarly sources today.
The Holman Study Bible?
Yes, the Holman Study Bible and the NAA Study Bible. That's the Nova Almeida Actualizada. These sources provide the historical context and the linguistic analysis we need to understand what's happening just beneath the surface of the English translation.
The premise setting this entire sequence in motion is just so cinematic. You have a powerful ruler, a secretly planted silver cup, and a 20-year-old guilty conscience that is finally coming home to roost. Let's jump right into the action.
Let's do it.
So Joseph, who the brothers still don't recognize, secretly orders his house manager to fill his brother's sacks with as much food as they can carry. He tells the manager to put their money back in their sacks, but then he gives one final, highly specific instruction.
A very crucial detail.
He orders his own personal silver cup to be placed into the sack of the youngest brother, Benjamin. I have to ask, though, why put Benjamin in danger? If Joseph wants to test his older brothers, isn't he just using his innocent younger brother as bait?
Well, Joseph is, he's constructing a highly controlled psychological experiment.
Okay.
He is recreating the exact conditions of his own betrayal. 2 decades earlier, these same older brothers disposed of Joseph out of pure jealousy.
Right, they threw him in a pit.
Exactly. Now, Joseph has engineered a scenario where they have the perfect opportunity to do the exact same thing to the other favored son. He gives them a golden ticket to abandon Benjamin and save themselves.
The tension is incredible. The brothers leave the city at dawn. They are probably breathing this massive sigh of relief, thinking they've survived their encounter with this terrifying, unpredictable Egyptian official.
They think they're home free.
But they barely get past the city limits when Joseph's manager comes tearing down the road after them. He cuts them off and launches this devastating accusation, "Why have you repaid good with evil?"
Yeah.
And he specifically identifies the missing item as the ruler's silver cup, noting it as a cup used for divination. Now, this detail always throws a wrench in things for readers.
It's very confusing at first glance.
Because we know from the broader historical and biblical record that divination and magic were strictly forbidden to the Israelites. So what is going on here? Was Joseph actively practicing magic in Egypt?
Both the Holman and the NAA study notes address this head-on because, as you said, it is such a jarring detail.
Right.
If we look closely at the historical evidence, there is no proof whatsoever that Joseph actually practiced divination. Both sources make it clear that this cup and the specific claim of divination was a highly calculated prop.
A prop for psychological warfare.
Precisely. In the ancient world, particularly in Egypt, a divination cup was used in a practice called lecanomancy.
Lecanomancy.
Yes. This involved pouring water into a silver vessel and then dropping oil or precious stones into it. The practitioner would then read the patterns of the liquid, the ripples, or the reflection of light to supposedly see the future or uncover hidden secrets.
Wow.
So by specifically instructing his manager to claim this was a divination cup, Joseph is sending a terrifying targeted message to his brothers. He's telling them, "I have supernatural discernment. I can see your hidden secrets. You cannot hide your past from me."
Imagine getting pulled over on the highway. You know you haven't been speeding. You know you are perfectly innocent. And then the officer pops your trunk and finds the mayor's stolen Rolex sitting right there next to your spare tire.
The panic must have been absolute.
The absolute panic. But what fascinates me is their initial reaction. They don't panic immediately. They are bursting with overconfidence. They look at the manager and declare that they would never steal.
Right.
They even point out that they brought back the money they found in their sacks on the previous trip. They are so confident that they make a remarkably rash offer. They say, "If any of us has the cup, that person will die, and the rest of us will become your master's slaves."
It is a massive overcorrection.
Yeah.
They're trying to prove their absolute innocence by offering the ultimate penalty. And this is where the trap perfectly snaps shut.
Oh, man.
The manager, operating under Joseph's strict orders, gives a response that seems lenient but is actually a devastating setup.
He softens their harsh offer.
He does. He says, no, we won't do all that. Only the one who is found with the cup will become my slave. The rest of you will go free.
It perfectly isolates the guilty party, or in this case, the framed party. It isolates Benjamin and hands the older brothers an immediate, consequence-free exit.
And the manager doesn't just rush over to Benjamin's sack either. He is methodical to build the psychological pressure. He makes them lower all their sacks to the ground, right there in the dust of the road. And he starts searching.
He starts with the oldest brother, Reuben, opens the sack, searches through the grain, nothing.
Right.
Then the next oldest, nothing. Simeon, Levi, Judah down the line. With every empty sack, the brothers' confidence must have been skyrocketing.
Kept building and building.
They get all the way down to the very last sack, Benjamin's sack, and there it is. The silver cup gleams in the grain. The text notes that their immediate reaction is to tear their clothes. Now, to a modern audience, that can read as melodramatic. Do the NAA study notes shed any light on how this physical reaction would have been perceived at the time?
They do, and the NAA study notes provide crucial cultural context here. In the ancient Near East, tearing one's garments was a profound, deeply ingrained external symbol of intense internal anguish.
Because clothing was so valuable.
Exactly. Clothing was expensive and time-consuming to make. Destroying it was not a casual act. It was a physical manifestation of a psychological breaking point.
Wow.
When words completely fail to capture the absolute horror of a moment, the violent act of ripping your own clothes communicates utter devastation and mourning. They aren't just upset, they are acknowledging that their lives, as they know them, are over.
There's a linguistic detail in the Holman study notes that I think completely changes how we view this moment on the road. It revolves around a specific Hebrew word, yakol. I'd love for you to unpack what the scholars are highlighting there.
The word yakol is a brilliant piece of biblical Hebrew. Primarily, it translates to power, to prevail, or to overcome.
Okay.
It is a word rooted in strength and capability. However, the Holman notes point out that in this specific narrative, it appears in a negative context, taking on the meaning of cannot or to be unable.
So how does that grammatical shift change our understanding of their emotional state?
It implies a complete inability to act. They have been entirely stripped of their agency.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. They are facing an Egyptian legal and political system they cannot fight. They are looking at undeniable physical evidence they cannot refute, even though they know they didn't commit the crime. They have been completely, utterly overcome by this situation.
Yakol in the negative.
Yes. It is the essence of powerlessness. They are paralyzed.
They don't try to argue with the manager anymore. They don't try to fight their way out. The text says they just silently load up their donkeys and make the agonizing walk back to the city. When they finally reach Joseph's house, they just fall face down in the dirt before him.
It's the fulfillment of the prophetic dreams Joseph had as a teenager.
The very dreams that incited their hatred 20 years ago. Up until this point, the brothers have operated as a collective unit, but someone has to speak for them now. Why is it Judah who steps forward?
The Holman notes offer a fascinating look at the shifting group dynamics of the family. Reuben, as the firstborn, should theoretically be the spokesman. But Reuben had lost his standing and authority due to severe moral failures earlier in the Genesis narrative.
Yeah.
Simeon and Levi were known for their uncontrollable violence. So Judah emerges as the clear leader. He takes on the incredibly heavy mantle of responsibility in a moment of absolute crisis.
And Joseph immediately goes on the offensive. He looks down at them and demands, "What is this you have done? Didn't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination?"
He is pressing his thumb right onto their paranoia.
Exactly. If I were in Judah's position, I would be screaming about my innocence. I would be demanding an investigation, claiming we were framed. But Judah doesn't argue the facts of the cup at all.
Not at all. His response is a masterpiece of psychological admission. He says, "What can we say to my Lord? What can we speak? How can we clear ourselves? God has uncovered the iniquity of your servants."
God has uncovered the iniquity. That phrasing is so loaded. They know they didn't steal the cup. So what iniquity are they actually confessing to?
Synthesizing the commentary from both the Holman and NAA sources reveals the true depth of this scene. The brothers are entirely convinced that God is finally forcing them to pay a long overdue debt. They are factually innocent of stealing the silver cup in the present, but they are spiritually confessing to the underlying, festering guilt of selling their brother into slavery in the past.
Wow.
They view this false accusation as the scales of cosmic justice finally balancing.
They believe God is punishing them for Joseph.
Whoa.
So Judah accepts the punishment on behalf of the whole group. He tells the Egyptian ruler, "Here we are your slaves, both we and the one in whose hand the cup was found." But Joseph pushes the test to its absolute limit.
He does.
He rejects the offer of collective punishment. He echoes his manager's earlier terms. He says, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who is found with the cup will become my slave. The rest of you, go back to your father in peace."
This is the crucible. Go back in peace.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate temptation. Joseph is telling them they are off the hook. They can leave Benjamin to his fate and walk away completely free. Will they abandon Rachel's son again?
In response, Judah steps forward and delivers what is universally considered a literary masterpiece. What do the study notes tell us about the significance of this speech?
The Holman Study Notes point out that Judah's plea is the longest continuous discourse in the entire book of Genesis.
Really?
The longest.
Yes, it clocks in at 218 words in the original Hebrew. In an ancient text that is usually remarkably sparse with dialogue, a speech of this length is a giant neon sign telling the reader to pay close attention to the rhetoric and the emotion being displayed.
And he structures the argument brilliantly. He approaches Joseph respectfully, acknowledging his immense power, but then he bypasses legal arguments entirely and goes straight for empathy.
He does.
He lays bare the fragile, heartbreaking reality of their family. He talks about their elderly father, Jacob. He explains that Jacob's favorite wife had 2 sons. One is dead, which is a lie they still believe about Joseph, and only Benjamin is left.
Judah uses incredibly evocative language to describe this relationship. He says that Jacob's soul is bound to the soul of the boy.
Their lives are inextricably linked. Exactly. Judah warns the ruler that if they return to Canaan without Benjamin, the shock will literally kill their father. He paints a visceral picture, saying the grief will send their father down to the grave with white hairs.
Just brutal.
He isn't asking for pity for himself. He's begging for mercy for an old man who has already lost too much.
Then we reach the climax of the narrative, the absolute peak of their moral development. Joseph's offer still stands. The older brothers can leave. But instead of abandoning Benjamin, Judah takes it a step further. He makes the ultimate substitutionary offer.
He truly steps up.
He says to Joseph, "Please let your servant remain here as my lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers."
The NAA Study Notes highlight a profound irony and a stark contrast in Judah's character here. We have to look at the history to understand the magnitude of this moment. 2 decades prior, it was Judah who callously suggested selling his brother Joseph to a caravan of traders just to make a quick profit and get rid of a family annoyance.
Right. He was the architect of the original slavery.
Yes.
The man who sold his brother into slavery is now voluntarily offering up his own freedom to become a slave in a foreign land.
It is a stunning, complete reversal of character.
Yeah.
He steps into the punishment he believes he deserves for his past crimes in order to save the innocent brother in the present.
He tells Joseph, "How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come upon my father."
He utterly refuses to be the cause of his father's grief ever again.
And this proves why the elaborate trap was necessary. Joseph wasn't playing a cruel prank on them. He needed to know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if the men standing in his court were the same ruthless brothers who threw him in a pit, or if time and guilt had changed them.
Right.
Judah's 218-word speech and his offer of substitutionary slavery provides undeniable proof that the transformation is real.
We are looking at a profound exploration of the human condition here. The text shows us how deeply our hidden guilt can haunt us, shaping our reactions decades later. But more importantly, it demonstrates that human beings are capable of incredible moral growth, genuine repentance, and staggering self-sacrifice.
As we wrap up today's deep dive into these sources, it leaves us with a fascinating and perhaps slightly uncomfortable philosophical question for you to ponder long after you finish listening.
Yeah.
We have spent this time analyzing how Joseph manipulated, terrified, and effectively framed his brothers to verify their moral growth. It forces us to ask a difficult question about the nature of justice and reconciliation. Does verifying true repentance ever justify using deception?
That's a heavy thought.
Right. Where's the line between a necessary test to ensure someone has changed and cruel manipulation that inflicts unnecessary trauma? When we are faced with the undeniable echoes of our past mistakes, Do we simply try to run, or do we, like Judah, finally step into the gap and offer ourselves to make it right? It's a complex ethical tension that the text just leaves sitting right there on the table.
It is a phenomenal question, and one that absolutely challenges how we view the mechanics of forgiveness and trust.
Thank you so much for joining us to unpack this incredible narrative. It has been an absolute joy to explore the historical depth and linguistic richness of these sources with you.
Yes, thank you for being here.
As we close out our time together, we want to leave you as we started by explicitly saying that God blesses you and God blesses all the listeners tuning in. Take care, and we will see you on the next deep dive.